Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome to our live clarity call, clarity check-in, our weekly call. So we meet here every Wednesday between 1 and 2 for a live clarity check-in call. So for those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Rachel Abba. I'm a mentor, a spiritual teacher. I support ambitious women of faith to go from feeling stuck in indecision and doubt and double-mindedness to feeling free, walking in your divine authority with clarity, courage, and confidence. So this is what I do, and I am so thrilled to have the honor and the privilege to be able to meet with you here every week, every Wednesday between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So let's jump in. Let me know in the comments, in the chat, where you're at, how your week has been, how you're feeling, how you're navigating life, how your decision-making process has been so far, like up until now, how your mindset is, how your heart posture is, and what your faith walk looks like in terms of whether or not you feel as if you're making progress in your life, whether or not you feel as if you're somehow hindered in your journey. Also, celebrating your wins. What are some of the things that you might have released in the last little while that you experience as being fruitful and positive and life-giving in your journey? What are some wins? There's no big, there's no small wins, right? So anything that you feel truly grateful for, that you know in your heart of hearts, you feel divinely inspired that this is the next step to moving you closer towards your purpose, towards being a social impact contributor, to feeling fulfilled, to feeling God aligned in your life, in your kingdom building. Please share. This will be so amazing. So again, for those who are not familiar, when I hop on here on Wednesdays, I don't have an agenda. I'm literally hopping on exactly what the name says. I'm checking in with you. How you being? How you thinking? How you feeling? What's up? So this is what this time together, this communion is all about. So please feel free to share your thoughts and any questions that you might have. So part of my specialization is in spiritual warfare and meaningful decision making. We've covered all kinds of topics here, whether it be from your dreams, like your sleeping dreams, to your waking dreams in terms of what your goals are, your aspirations. We've touched on anything spiritual, right? We've touched on symbolism. We've touched on aspects of spiritual warfare, dark kingdom, dark empire, God's kingdom. We've talked about spirits. We've talked about whether like the different types of spirits, different types of dreams, different types of symbols and imagery, things that you might have in terms of lifestyle, things that you might have in your life that you take for granted, that you just accept as normal, that you never considered those things might be holding clues to what might be keeping you feeling stuck. Things like soul ties in past relationships, things like generational curses or generational agreements that you might not even be privy to that are playing out in your lived experience now. Things like so many areas. in terms of agreements and covenants and generational blessings, how to unleash those and how to walk in your authority, how to make decisions, meaningful decisions that are God aligned versus man aligned or worldly aligned. So there's so many areas and so many possibilities, which is why I love what I do so much. Everything in my experience and what I've learned up until now is that everything that I see and touch and feel in terms of like the five senses are all informed from the spiritual unseen realms. Okay, so when I say spiritual, I mean unseen, right? The unseen sciences, the unseen worlds, the intangibles. So everything that we see and you see as reality, as physical, as real, is actually first created and exists first in the non-physical. And then we draw it down by who we're being and how we interact and the way we communicate. So this comes into your sense of identity, your foundation, who you are spiritually, and that then informs your physical experience. So how do you walk in your God-led authority, your divine authority, to be able to now see the evidence of who you're being as a spiritual being having a human experience? How do you now live that out in the physical? How do you command that creation so that it goes from, in the beginning of the spirit hovering above the waters? How do you hover in the possibilities and then choose to now command that authority, that divine authority, to be able to now create in evidence, in physical form, your God-aligned desired outcomes? So this is about, what does my creator want to see through and make physical, make known, make complete and fulfilled through me in this world? So that God alignment is what brings such just perfect peace and purpose and power. This is what it feels like to walk in your God-led authority. You have a peace that passeth all understanding. You have a clarity. Right? So I often talk about clarity, courage, and confidence. The confidence comes from knowing in whose authority you're rooted. The courage comes from knowing who you are in God's identity. And the clarity comes from that faith walk of just that active surrender of knowing that no matter what, I'm leaning on the promises of the living God, and knowing that as you're doing and being and connecting, whatever it is you're doing, whoever you're being in this world, you can just rest mentally, emotionally, physically. You can rest in the knowledge, in the complete, perfect knowledge that you are covered. When it's in alignment with the Creator, who you're being, what you're saying, what you're doing, you're covered. Like, what can come against you? You're literally inspired and under the covering. It is when you step out of that covering that, life gets dramatic and interesting and can be problematic. And then you find yourself in distraction, in dis-ease, in decision fatigue. Ambitious, bold women, usually, you're entrepreneurial, you're free thinkers, you make a lot of decisions every day, moment by moment. A lot rests on your shoulders. And should you be that person, that I'm talking to, because I know who I'm talking to, other ambitious women of faith, where you are go, 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 go. You're creating massive action in the world. You're taking, you're taking opportunities as they come, and you're creating opportunities for other people. You're opening doors. You're setting up tables. You're doing so much because you see a lot of opportunity in the world, and you're creating solutions. You're a solution finder. You're a pathfinder. You're the one who truly demonstrates what can be in the world. The challenge, though, I found in my work and in my own life with myself, this is my walk, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me, is that there can be a lot of doing and a lot of go-getting and a lot of taking charge and a lot of that worldly grind that can happen that eventually can affect your well-being. And I know personally it affected my well-being, where I was grinding so hard as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a wife, as a daughter, as a colleague, as a community member, as all the hats that I chose to wear because I have limitless capacity. What I forgot and neglected was that, yes, I have unlimited capacity. However, I was not pouring into my own cup in the same way I was pouring into other people's cups. I was failing to replenish myself. I was failing to rest. I was failing to hold myself up and hold myself high. I was so busy pouring into other people's cups that I failed to pour into my cup. I literally betrayed myself for the sake of having good intentions, for what I wanted to create and for what I knew could be created through me. However, what I did was I jumped into the driver's seat. I CC'd God on all my massive action and did all of that to whose glory? Was I really checking in? So I wasn't covered. I was doing it in God's name and for kingdom building purposes, yet being radically honest about it, I was doing it from a place of me wanting to do something and wanting to create something. And I wasn't in relationship with God. I was doing it on my own strength. I was doing it on my own drive. So what ended up happening was my physical body was taxed. And I started tanking. Physically, my health deteriorated, my peace of mind, mentally, foggy, everything was shutting down. Yet, building success in the world. I was failing myself. It was unsustainable. So, yeah, that's what happened. And so for the past, I would say, last few years, I've been on this rebuilding journey, rebuilding my relationship with God, rebuilding my relationship with the Holy Spirit, listening deeply and being obedient. That has been the biggest piece, the obedience piece of making a move when I've been given, I feel compelled by the Holy Spirit, and I've experienced the discernment that only comes through the Holy Spirit before I take massive action, before I make a meaningful decision, not man-made decisions, but God-led decisions. And because of that, my health started improving. My peace began to return. I started to regain my strength. I started to think on a higher level. I began to actually tap into inspiration. So life becomes easy when I chose powerfully to do it this way. And so this is part of why I feel so clear and strongly about the work that I do in supporting other ambitious, bold women of faith who feel driven to solve challenges, complex situations that they see in the world by kingdom building through their business, through their roles in their companies, if they're leaders in their companies, directors, C-suite folks, professionals, even those who might not necessarily be entrepreneurial or in a business, yet they're choosing powerfully to be leaders in their own lives and in their own families. You're the pathfinders, you're the generational curse breakers, you're the ones who bring about the healing of familial wounds. You're the ones who pull your communities together. You're still a leader, whether or not you wear 10 hats, 100 hats, or 1 hat. You have that heart posture for God. You have that heart posture for people. You have that heart posture to be a powerful, positive contributor. And you're looking at legacy building. You're looking at the impact of your actions on future generations. You're looking beyond yourself without abandoning yourself. This is who you are. And so I am here to walk with you in your God-led authority, to remind you to fix your crown, right? To fix your crown so that you remember who you are. You remember that it is your birthright to walk in peace, purpose, and power, to claim that authority in the identity of being a daughter of a living God. And then you walk out into the world and you build from that. That is from the well you draw your limitless capacity for more. More for you, more for the world, more for other people, more, because that is one of the first instructions that mankind was given, to go forth and be fruitful and multiply. And you do that with discernment, with the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, supporting you and guiding you along the way. So I would love to support you. Any questions you might have, any topics you would like me to cover in the future. Again, every Wednesday between 1 and 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I hop on here for a quick live check-in with you. So if you miss this live, please feel free to leave comments in the chat and I will circle back and check in and bring that up in our next call or respond in the chat, depending on what it is. Okay, so loving our time together. Thank you. I appreciate you. Please remember who you are, to walk in your authority. Peace that passeth all understanding is yours. It gets to be easy. Striving was not what was intended for you and me. Okay? So, until next time, I see you and honor you. Remain blessed. Bye for now.